Welcome back to Chapter 1. This is Lesson 1.7, Multiply by Multi-Digit Numbers. We will be starting on page 43. The standard for today is under the Numbers and Operations in Base 10, 5.5. It states I can multiply multi-digit whole numbers using a standard step-by-step procedure for calculations. So on page 43, our essential question is asking, how do you multiply by multi-digit numbers? So under the unlock the problem, a tiger can eat as much as 40 pounds of food at a time, but it may go for several days without eating anything. Suppose a Siberian tiger in the wild eats an average of 18 pounds of food per day. How much food will the tiger eat in 28 days if he eats that amount each day? So we know the two numbers that we would need to use with our multiplication is the 18 pounds of food per day times the 28 days. So that is how we are getting the problem, 28 times 18. To find the estimate, we want to round this time both factors to their largest place value. So for my 28, the 2 that is in the tens place is my largest place value. And looking to the right, the 8 does tell my 2 to bump up to a 3. So that is how I have 30 underneath the think. Then for the 18, the 1 is in the tens place, which is my largest place value. And again, the 8 tells my 1 to bump up to a 2. So that is how I get 20. So when I multiply these two numbers together, I have to take 3 times 2 first, which is 6. And then with the 30 and the 20, they both have a 0, so that means I have to add 2 zeros to my final answer. So that means the tiger would eat about 600 pounds of food. So now we're actually going to find the real total amount. And to do this, we need to make sure that we are multiplying the 28 times the 8 from the 18. If it helps you to circle what you need to be working on first, you can definitely do that. So just like in our 1.6 lesson, we are taking the 8 from the bottom factor and we are multiplying it by everything in the top factor. So I first start with 8 times 8, which is 64. I'm going to drop my 4 and regroup the 6. And then I will take 8 times 2, which is 16, and 16 plus 6 is 22. So I have now found that if I had 28 times 8 ones, I would have 224 ones. So that is the answer to my first partial product. So in step 3, I'm going to rewrite that answer that I just found. And now, because I am finished multiplying the 8 out from the 18, I am going to cross it out because I am done with it. I do not want to accidentally multiply it out again. For the number of digits that I have to cross out from the bottom factor, that will be the number of zeros I need to drop for my second partial product. So because I have 1x from the 18, I have 1 0 that I have to drop. Now I need to multiply the 1 that is in the tens location for the 18. So I have 1 times 8, which is 8, and 1 times 2, which is 2. Now if I was just taking the 28 times the 110, that would obviously be 28 tens. To convert that into ones, I now have 280 ones because I essentially multiplied 28 times 10. So now that I have both partial products, I have the partial product for the 28 times 8, which was 224, and the 28 times 10, which was 280. Notice how my numbers are nice and lined up. That is because I now need to add these two partial products together. Keeping them in a nice straight line will help you make sure you are adding the correct digits together. So to get my final answer, 4 plus 0 is 4, 2 plus 8 is 10, drop the 0, carry the 1, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So that means, on average, a Siberian tiger may eat 504 pounds of food in 28 days. I can tell that my answer is a reasonable answer. If I look back up at my estimate, I see that my estimate was 600, and I know that my 504 is pretty close to that 600. Moving on to the next page. On page 44, my next example says a Siberian tiger was observed sleeping 1,287 minutes during the course of one day. If he slept for that long every day, how many minutes would he sleep in 1 year? And we need to assume that there are 365 days in 1 year. So to find my estimate, I am again going to round both of my numbers to their largest place value. For the 1,287, the largest place value is in the thousands place. And looking to the right of that, the 2 does tell my 1 to stay the same, so I would round that number to 1,000. Going over to the 365, the 3 is in the largest place value, which is the hundreds. Look to the right of that, and the 6 does tell my 3 to round up to a 4. So that is how I get the rounded numbers of 1,000 times 400. So now I have to take my 1 times 4, which is 4, and now I'm going to count the number of zeros that I need to have in my answer between the 2 factors. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros that my product must have. So that means the tiger would sleep about 400,000 minutes in 1 year. So now I'm going to start multiplying this out. So because I am multiplying by pretty large factors, I am going to circle the part that I am multiplying first. So I see that I need to multiply the 5 out to the 1,287 for the very first step. So 5 times 7 I know is 35. Drop my 5, regroup my 3's above the tens place. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 3 gives me 43. Drop the 3, regroup my 4 above the hundreds place. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Drop my 4, regroup the 1 above the thousands digit. And finally, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So for my first partial product, I see that 1,287 times 5 is 6,435. Especially when working with partial products, please do not place a comma. Those commas can be mistaken for ones when we add the partial products together. So under step 3, where I'm multiplying by my tens, I am going to rewrite the first partial product. Because I am finished multiplying by that 5 in the second factor, I'm going to make sure I cross it out. If you need to circle what part is next, make sure you are doing so. So I see that I am multiplying the 1,287 by the 6 that is located in the tens spot. So I'm essentially multiplying by 60. Because I'm multiplying by 60 and because I have one x in my second factor, that means I need to drop 1 0. So now multiplying the 6, 6 times 7 is 42. Drop the 2, regroup the 4 above the tens place. 6 times 8 is 48. 48 plus 4 is 52. Drop the 2, regroup the 5 above the hundreds place. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17. Drop the 7, regroup the 1 above the thousands. And 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So that means 1,287 times 6 tens would be your 7,722 tens. Or to show that in ones, because I essentially multiplied that by 60, I would have my 77,221. So that is my second partial product. So now I'm going to make sure I rewrite both partial products, making sure that I keep my numbers in a nice, neat, organized fashion so that way I can add them together for my final step. So now that I have my two partial products written down, I am going to cross off the digits that I've already multiplied out in my second factor. So I've crossed out the 5 and now the 6. Again, because I've crossed two numbers out, I now need to add 2 zeros. Remember, the number of x's is the number of zeros you must drop. And my final number to multiply out is the 3 that's located in the hundreds place. I'm essentially multiplying the 1,287 times 300. Again, that's why there are 2 zeros in my third partial product. So 3 times 7 is 21. Drop the 1. Carry the 2 above the tens place. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. Drop the 6. Regroup the 2 above the hundreds. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. And 3 times 1 is 3. So if I'm just saying how many 1,287 times 300 is, I would have the 3,861 hundreds. Or to say that in ones, I would have 386,100. Now the final step that I need to do is I need to take those three partial products and I need to add them together. So again, I'm going to rewrite those partial products, making sure my numbers are in a nice straight line so I can add them correctly. So now when I go to add, I have 5 plus 0, which is 5. 3 plus 2 plus 0, which is 5. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 6 plus 7 is 13, and then 13 plus 6 is 19. 8 plus 7 is 15, plus 1 is 16. And then 3 plus 1 is 4. So the tiger would sleep 469,755 minutes in 1 year. And I know that my answer is a reasonable answer because if you look back up at your estimate, my estimate was 400,000 minutes. And because we did have to round down for one of the numbers, that is why my answer is larger than my estimate. So now going on to page 45 to do some example problems together. Notice for numbers 1 and 2, they have them in grid paper. This is a nice way to keep your partial products straight and organized. So if you find that that works best for you, definitely make sure you are working on grid paper to help you out. So for question number 1, like I stated on the previous questions, if you need to circle what you are working on first, make sure you are doing so. This helps you make sure to multiply the correct digits together. So for my first partial product, I am going to take 64 times 3 to get that answer. So 3 times 4 is 12, drop the 2, regroup the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So there's my first partial product. I'm going to make sure I cross off everything that I'm finished with so that way I don't accidentally multiply it out again. Because I have 1x in the second factor, that means there is 1 0 that I'm dropping. And that also means that I am essentially multiplying 64 times 40. So now I'm going to go ahead and multiply the 4 out. So 4 times 4 is 16. Drop the 6, carry the 1. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Now I can add the two partial products together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry the 1. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and then just bring down your 2. So my final answer is 2,752. For question number 2, again, circle the part that you need to in order to make sure you are multiplying correctly. And for the first partial product, I will be taking 571 times 8. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. Drop the 6, regroup the 5. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 5 is 45. I'm going to make sure I cross off everything that I have finished with. I have 1x in the second factor, so that means 1 0 that I need to drop. And that also tells me I'm essentially multiplying 571 times 30. So now multiplying the 3 out, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. Drop the 1, regroup the 2. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So now I can add my two partial products together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 3 is 9. 5 plus 1 is 6. 4 plus 7 is 11. Regroup the 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So that means my final answer is 21,698. Now for the next next 6 questions, I should say. I did rewrite the problem so that way I didn't have to write really tiny. It does make it a little bit difficult to write that small. So we are going to practice finding our estimates so that way we can check for our reasonableness of our answers. So for 24, I would round that down to 20 times 15, I would round up to 20. So 2 times 2 is 4, and with both factors, they have a 0, so that means I have 2 zeros. So that means my answer should be about 400. So now, starting with the 5, 5 times 4 is 20. Drop the 0, regroup the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So my first partial product is 120. I'm going to cross off everything that I am finished with. So now because I crossed off my 5, I need to make sure I drop a 0. And now 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. So, oops, I apologize. So now I need to add those two partial products together. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 2 plus 4 is 6, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So I do get the final answer of 360, which is very close to my estimate. So I know my answer is reasonable. For number 4, to find my estimate, the 7 does tell my 3 to round up to a 4, so I'm rounding that up to a 40. And the 3 for the 63 tells my 6 to stay the same. So I'm going to have 40 times 60. The 4 times 6 is 24. And then I need to add 2 zeros behind that from both factors. So now I'm going to multiply the 3 out from the 63. 3 times 7 is 21. Drop the 1, regroup the 2. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So my first partial product is 111. I'm going to cross off the 3 from the 63 because I've multiplied that out, and cross off the regrouped 2 because I've already added that on. Because my 3 was crossed out from the second factor, I'm going to drop 1 0, and now I'm going to multiply my 6 out. 6 times 7 is 42. Drop the 2, regroup the 4. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 4 is 22. And now I'm going to add those partial products together. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Again, 1 plus 2 is 3. And bring down my 2. So my answer for number 4 is 2,331, which is very close to my estimate, so I know my answer is reasonable. For number 5, I do now have a hundreds factor multiplied by a tens, so we do need to make sure that we are finding our estimate to make sure my answer is reasonable. The 8 does tell my 3 to round up to a 4, so I'm rounding the 384 to 400 times, and then the 5 does tell my 4 to round up to a 5, so 50. 4 times 5 is 20. And then I have 3 zeros after that 20 that I will have to add. So that means my answer should be around 20,000. So starting by multiplying out the 5, 5 times 4 is 20, drop a 0, regroup the 2. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 2 is 42, drop the 2, regroup a 4. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. Cross off the 5 since I'm finished with it, drop a 0, and then cross off anything that you had to regroup. Now multiplying the 4, 4 times 4 is 16, regroup the 1. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33, regroup the 3. And 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. Add those two partial products together. We have 0, 8, 12, carry my 1, 7, 1. So my final answer is 17,280, which is pretty close to my estimate. Moving on to question number 6. To find my estimate, the 8 does tell my 2 to round up to a 3, so 30 times. And then for the 22, the 2 tells my 2 to stay the same, so 20. So I know 3 times 2 is 6, and I see that I have to add 2 zeros. So now to solve, 2 times 8 is 16, regroup the 1. 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. Cross off the 2 from the ones digit, drop a 0, and cross off what you have regrouped. So now 2 times 8 is 16 again, regroup a 1. 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. We now have to add those two partial products together. 6 plus 0 is 6, 5 plus 6 is 11, regroup a 1, and 1 plus 5 is 6. So 616, which is very close to my estimate. For question number 7, the 93 would round down to 90 times, and the 76 would round up to 80. So 9 times 8 is 72, and add 2 zeros. So that means my answer will be around 7,200. Now to multiply this out, 3 times 6 is 18, regroup the 1. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 1 is 55. Cross off the 6, drop a 0, and cross off the 1 that we regrouped. So now 7 times 3 is 21, regroup the 2. 7 times 9 is 63. 63 plus 2 is 65. Add the two partial products together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 1 is 6. 5 plus 5 is 10. Regroup the 1. And 1 plus 6 is 7. So that means my answer is 7,068, which is very close to my estimate. Now for this next question, for number 8, notice it is a very large multiplication problem. So my estimate, the 2 does tell my 5 to stay the same, so I would have 5,000 times the 1 tells my 2, or the 2, I'm sorry, tells my 1 to stay the same, so 100. So my estimate, I would have 5 times 1, which is 5, and I see that there are a total of 5 zeros between the two factors. So that means my answer will be around 500,000. So now I'm starting to multiply out the 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 7 is 63. Drop the 3, regroup the 6. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. Drop the 4, regroup the 2. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 2 is 47. Cross out the 9 because I am finished with it. Drop a 0 so I don't forget. And then cross off anything that I've regrouped. Now to multiply out the 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 7 is 14. Drop the 4, regroup a 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And 2 times 5 is 10. Now I'm going to cross off that 2, and now since there are 2 digits crossed out in that second factor, I must drop 2 zeros, and then make sure anything that you regrouped is crossed out as well. So my final step is to multiply the 1 to everything. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 5 is 5. Add those two partial products together, and 9 plus 0 is 9, 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 0 is still 5, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So now I have 7 plus 5, which is 12, 12 plus 7 is 19, carry the 1, 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7, and 1 plus 5 is 6. So my final answer is 679,000. I apologize, my computer is going a little crazy. Sorry about that. So 679,959. So because this lesson does take 2 days, on day 2, you should take 9 through 16, try them on your own. Please use a calculator to check your answers, and let us know if you have anything that you would like for us to keep on explaining. So to go over the homework, on our homework page 47, you are going to be doing all of the even problems. So questions 2, 4, 6, and 8. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Make sure you are showing all of your work. And again, if it's written across, make sure you are setting the problem up where they're stacking. And I do like to have my larger factor on top. It does not matter if you would put the 23 on top of the 67. Now for number 6, 612 times 87. So then let's take a look at question number 8. Number 8 says, there were 135 cars in a rally. Each driver paid a $25 fee to participate in the rally. How much money did the drivers pay in all? So we do need to take the 135 cars times the $25 per car. And then when you multiply that together, that will give you your answer in dollars. On the next page, on page 48, you are going to be doing all of the questions. Numbers 1 and 2 are from today's lesson, the 1.7. So for number 1, a chessboard has 64 squares. At a chess tournament, 84 chessboards were used. How many squares are there on 84 chessboards? So we do know that we are taking the 84 chessboards times the 64 squares per chessboard, and that will give us our number of squares. For question number 2, it says, last month a manufacturing company shipped 452 boxes of ball bearings. Each box contains 48 ball bearings. How many ball bearings did the company ship last month? So we do know that we are taking our 452 times 48. And that will give us our number of bearings. Moving on to question number 3. This is from lesson 1.2, and it's asking what is the standard form of the number 3,060,520. If you have your place value charts, I do recommend you use those to double check your answer. For number 4, what number completes the following equation? Notice we do have a multiplication sign outside the parentheses with an addition sign inside the parentheses. This does mean that this is the distributive property, So remember, you do need to have on the one set of parentheses the 8 being multiplied to the 40, and in the second set of parentheses the 8 being multiplied to the 7. Number 5, the population of Clarksville is about 6,000 people. What is the population written as a whole number multiplied by a power of 10? So for this, ladies and gentlemen, you do have to figure out what the whole number is, times 10, and then to what power. You do need to count your number of zeros in 6,000, because remember, this multiplication problem should equal 6,000. And finally, from number 6, a sporting goods store ordered 144 cans of tennis balls. Each can contains 3 balls. How many tennis balls did the store order? So this goes back to the lesson from 1.6, where we have 144 times 3, and that will tell us the number of tennis balls. Remember, if you have any questions, please direct it to your math teacher. And this is a 2-day lesson, so it will be due after the second lesson. Thanks.